Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Happening. My name is Jorge Shaft, and you are listening to Relaks Radio. I have got a whole bunch of different stories here for you today. I have got Afghanistan, basically everything going on there. It's a pretty fast developing story. I fully expect this to be like completely out of date within like an hour on that story, but don't worry, I've got more. I've also got Andrew Cuomo. Remember him from last week? New York governor, really sleazy guy. Yeah, he's resigned now. I've also got India. Don't normally talk much about India, but it's a shame. I really should, especially considering the fact they're talking about a $1.35 trillion infrastructure bill. But first, I've got to talk about the first story today, which is a very unfortunate story. Uh, the UK has just suffered its worst mass shooting in 10 years since Dunblane. All right. Okay. Where to start? Let's start with the Daily Telegraph. Plymouth shooting, says the Daily Telegraph 2 days ago. Gunman kills 5 with number of injured unconfirmed. At the time of that story, now we know a bit more about like how many people were injured, but the 2 of us were injured. But what happened, Telegraph? A gunman killed 5 people, including a 3-year-old girl. Lovely stuff. During a shooting spree in Plymouth on Thursday night. There were reports the victims included the shooter's parents, and the police said the gunman was found dead at the scene from a gunshot wound. Priti Patel, the Home Secretary, described the incident, the first mass shooting in the UK for 11 years, as shocking. Boris Johnson has said his thoughts are with the family and friends of the victims of the shooting, and he thanked emergency services who responded. Local MP Luke Pollard said one of the people killed was a child under the age of 10 years old. Well, isn't that a great story to start off the day, isn't it? I mean, granted, 2 days ago now, but like, you wake up, you stretch your arms, beautiful day, you look on the news, and it's a freaking mass shooting. Witnesses claimed the gunman had gone berserk in the Kiam area of the city before opening fire. The suspect was named locally on Thursday night as Jake Davison. Ah, what a good start, eh? So this is a story that's actually you could kind of seen it happening for a little while now, and a lot of the sort of ongoing stories about this have been kind of the usual oh gee, this could have been prevented thing. Most notably the fact that Jake Davison, he actually had like a gun legally. It was a shotgun with a 3-shot like capacity, right? But then in December of last year, he'd actually had his gun sort of confiscated. It was taken away because he had like an assault charge. He was charged with like the crime of like, hey, you're like attacking people. What the hell? And there were also like a few other reasons to be worried. Like, for example, he's quite involved in the sort of like the incel movement in sort of like various kind of like right wing sort of online spaces, sort of 4chan, crazy town stuff. But then in July, he, was given the gun back, and he was given like the license. Like, yeah, sure. I mean, you almost certainly were, attacking people, with an assault charge in December of last year. But you're good for a gun. Like, you just because you go around beating people up, surely means you're like the best person to possibly ever have possession of a firearm. It's been quite something sort of watching the sort of Americans online Twitter. I've been spending too much time this week on Twitter, but on Twitter, kind of diving in with their sort of usual kind of a country that isn't the US now having a mass shooting. Clearly, this shows that like our gun laws are not the problem. Never mind the fact that, that's a country that gets sort of mass shootings every 5 minutes, whereas this is the first mass shooting in 11 years. But it has been very interesting, this sort of story. And it's been really interesting to see, the kind of compare and contrast of the way we talk about these kinds of incidences. And, perverse as it might sound, the fact that the US actually has quite a few of them means that, you can compare notes. You can take, like, oh, so people talked about this mass shooting in this way, and they reacted to this mass shooting in another way. Interesting, interesting. Uh, for a start, one of the things that immediately came out was a big discussion on like mental health. It turned out that the shooter had like depression and had been sort of really struggling for a long time. And you know what? Fair, actually. Like the first people he shot was his parents, and like if, as some people have been kind of, again, I've been spending too much time on Twitter, been kind of like trying to pin, like going, oh, it's terrorism. It's like, no. Most of the time, terrorists don't kill their parents first, and then they don't commit the atrocity, in their neighborhood if they want to for like terrorism reasons. But the discussion that comes up afterwards is okay, so it's like a mental health problem, right? And yeah, as I said, seems completely to be what's happening. Uh, I've been talking about this for a while now, both on here and sort of like off screen, about the fact that we have a bit of a mental health crisis at the moment in the UK. In shockingly high suicide rates, incredibly high rates of sort of depression, anxiety, uh, the two mixed together in a lot of people, which is, just a, chef's kiss, horrific circumstances to sort of have to be dealing with all the time. The rates of depression, they went up. I forget the exact number, but they went out like a huge amount in 2020 because like everyone was sort of locked inside, just their homes. And to see my home, it's a blank void at the moment. Imagine that for everyone else. It's heartbreaking, and I really wish that more would be done about that. Unfortunately, though, a lot of the sort of discussion about this isn't really trending towards there. A lot of it's been kind of like, oh, hey, first of all, trying to pin it on like terrorism. Where it's like, yeah, he was an incel. Yeah, he did have like a YouTube channel where he was just rambling, insane far right stuff, which is a big difference compared to Relax Radio, where you get George doing insane kind of centre left ramblings. Anyway, but like again, most of the time terrorists don't like kill their parents first thing. Like they kill, they go to like a crowded place with like a lot of people and then just start randomly shooting. Like that's how you like inflict terrorism. It's like rule one of the manual. I mean that just implies that like I've read the terrorism manual, but shush, we're not going to talk about that bit. The the final thing I've been thinking is ironic as it might sound, and tragic that it's this incident. I'm not going to make any kind of light or saying like oh ho ho but it does actually show kind of how effective Britain's gun laws actually are. I know it sounds really weird and ironic to say that on the same week as a mass shooting, but on the other hand, think about it. Like this is the first mass shooting in the UK in 11 years. The the only reason this guy like had a gun at all was because of a police screw up. Like they knew he was a bad guy. They knew he, was committing crimes. Yet they gave him his gun back. That's it's a screw up. And honestly, like, you know, if one police screw up every 11 years is, the kind of the tragedy of mass shootings in the UK, then you know what? I can think of far worse. I can really think of a lot of countries where the story is much, much more dramatic. So there's that kind of like a bittersweet thing of like, no matter how many laws you have, no matter how many controls you put on, you're never going to stop every single accident, every single death, every single murder, or even mass shooting that could ever happen. But as I've been saying to one person I know, we don't scrap seatbelts because people die in car accidents. The fact that the seatbelts save so many lives in the long run over the statistics, and you don't hear about them because person doesn't die in car crash isn't really a story. I'm somewhat kind of, if this is what it takes, just, a very, very vanishingly rare kind of incident every 11 years, that's better than the alternative could have been. And I'm happy that Britain's got the gun laws it does. But what do you think? I know I've come out with a bit of a controversial little thing there at the end, but I'm really curious to know what you think. I always make a point of reading the comments to the live stream, but in the meantime, and in between time, I think I'm going to let some other people have a talk. Don't worry though, they are very, very clever, very insightful, very smart people. So I'm going to let them have a go, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.
The valuations that you place on an asset are always behind you. It's always in hindsight. It's never in front of you. And that's one of the challenges, right? Because you're always valuing what happened yesterday. And what you need is what's going to happen tomorrow. What am I saving or investing for? Why am I doing it? When will I need the money? And how much money do I need? Yeah. So that's quite important, because when you're looking at your net worth, you've got to start with saying, well, what do I want my net worth to be, so that there's a goal, and then work backwards. How do I get there? And if I can start with £50 or $50 a week, if I save that every week, and you can go online and use calculators online. I don't have to teach you the maths behind it, but you can say, okay, and if I get a 3% return and I put this away for how long will it